Hi, this is Jess Reeves on legal aspects of teacher evaluation for EDL 851. Through the reading, it was pretty easy to tell that most policymakers agree that evaluations should be done to help teachers work on and improve their craft. They shouldn't be a negative thing. However, some policymakers have that idea that evaluations serve the purpose to identify and remove bad teachers more efficiently. There have been many improvements to teacher evaluations over the years, and they've come a long ways. But many of them moved away from the old checklist of here, you check the box, you're good, you're good, you're good, and are now fairly consistent with the Danielson framework, which a lot of research has shown is the more proficient way to judge, I guess, a teacher on their performance. At USD 412, our teacher evaluations, we use the KEEP assessment, which has 4 constructs highly influenced by the Danielson framework. A teacher can be marked as ineffective, developing, effective, or highly effective, being the highest. And each construct has a section for comments and evidence as to why the teacher was marked at that level. Each teacher must assess themselves at the beginning of the year. So beginning of the year at our in-service, we have a KEEP self-assessment that we must fill out. And then after an observation is done, our administrator uses the same KEEP assessment that we had previously done to evaluate the teacher. So we can kind of compare notes on, maybe I marked myself as developing and they thought I was effective or vice versa, whatever. So construct number 1 is learner and learning. It includes learner development, learner differences, and learning environment. So if the teacher plans instruction based on learning and the developmental levels of all students, does this include everybody in the classroom, or maybe it's excluding a certain group of students where maybe they're not quite getting what they should out of the lesson. Learner differences, teacher recognized and fostered individual differences to establish a positive classroom culture. I love my different kids. Like I love my ornery kids and my chatty kids because they make my classroom fun and they make it different. It's not a room of robots. Learning environment, the teacher established a classroom environment conducive to learning. I'm a firm believer in having some fun in the classroom, but majority of my students will tell you there is time for fun and there's a time to get to work, and we kind of establish that line. Construct number 2 is content knowledge. The teacher demonstrated a thorough knowledge of their content, and 2.2, innovative applications of content knowledge. So the teacher provided a variety of innovative applications of knowledge. I recently went to a conference where Kurt Dillon, our ag KSDE guy, was talking about teaching is no longer giving kids information. They have the information at their fingertips, literally with their phones and the internet. It's more showing them what to do with that information. What do you do with that? What does this information mean? And I think that's a really important part of teaching anymore. Construct 3 is instructional practice. Planning for instruction, the teacher used methods and techniques that are effective in meeting student needs. If you come into my classroom, I'm an ag teacher, so it'd be very rare for you to see a traditional notes and PowerPoint on my board. Okay, sometimes we do that because we just have to get information out. But more often than not, it's a differentiated classroom. Assessment, teacher used varied assessments to measure learner progress. Assessment doesn't have to mean test. It can be something as simple from a project to a large end-of-year shop project. Maybe your final isn't a test. Assessment is just figuring out how much they've learned, assessing their knowledge growth. And instructional strategies, teacher delivered comprehensive instruction for students. Again, back to the notes. It's not just notes and notes and notes. I had a history class in high school like that, and I hated it because it was the same thing every day. Yes, we knew what to expect. We knew our expectations, but I probably didn't learn as much as I could have out of that course because it was just the same delivery every day. And construct number 4 is professional responsibility. Reflection and continuous growth. The teacher engaged in reflection and continuous growth. It's important for teachers, for us to be like, okay, here's what I really liked about that lesson, or here's what I really like about this unit, but here's what I want to tweak a little bit and change. And 4.2 is collaboration leadership. Teacher participate in collaboration leadership opportunities. As a teacher going cross-curricular, maybe, if a student is working on a shop project and they're working on an angle and they're trying to figure out how long a certain piece of a project should be, that, hey, you know what? Let's take this over to the math teacher. They're like, why? Because it's a math problem. Like, helping them understand that, just because you're not in the math room or the science room or the English room, those concepts can cross over into all parts of your life. Teacher rights and negative evaluations. At USD 412, if a teacher feels their evaluation is inaccurate, they have 2 weeks to provide a written explanation as to why they feel their evaluation was unfair. And if they're unhappy with the response that they get, they can file a grievance against the person administering the observation. Teacher rights and being unjustly let go. Teachers at USD 412 are either probationary or non-probationary. A teacher becomes non-probationary after their 3rd year in the district. So this is my 3rd year here, so after this year, I would be considered a non-probationary teacher. Probationary teachers can be let go at any time during their first 3 years for any reason, and they could not give you a reason due to our contract. Non-probationary teachers are placed on non-renewal due to performance, are put on a plan of improvement. If non-renewal is for any other reason than the negotiated agreement has to be followed. Teachers have 14 days from notice to file for a closed hearing. Our school is really good about working with new teachers. Even a probationary teacher, rather than just say, oh, we're done with you, we're not going to work with you, they will say, okay, here's where we need to see you improve. So it's almost like a plan of improvement. So they're willing to work with you, which is really a good thing. The legal case I chose was Wagner versus Haslam. Tennessee Education Association challenged the use of a composite school-wide growth measure for evaluating teachers in non-testing areas such as art and music. This case was actually thrown out by the courts, and there was no plan to appeal. This case actually spoke to me a little bit because I'm not a core area, and I don't have a state assessment score to rely on. Even though I'm not a teacher who is judged on my state assessment scores, I can't imagine the pressure that is, because you can't justify that, because every student is going to have a different day. Every student has a different experience that day. Maybe their parents got divorced last night. You don't know what's happening in their life that could have affected their scores that has nothing to do with the teacher. At some point, student education has to become a student responsibility. If you want to learn, you will learn. If you don't want to learn, you can avoid learning. So this kind of spoke to me as an ag teacher. Like I said, I don't give state assessments, and I can't imagine being judged on a student's English state assessment score. Yes, I do a lot of cross-curricular work, but I don't even see the English state assessment. I wouldn't know what to teach for the English state assessment, so how could I be judged for that area? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I was really surprised this got thrown out by the courts, but that's the case I chose. How I plan to ensure legal evaluations as a school administrator. I really feel as long as you follow the steps in your negotiated agreement, in your contracts, and you maintain an open conversation with your evaluatee, then you should be able to avoid legal issues. If you can have those open conversations with your evaluatee and that they understand, where you're coming from, they understand you're trying to help them improve as an educator, I think that says a lot, rather than, saying, oh, yeah, you're fine, and then, oh, yeah, we're not going to renew you. That's, very contradictory. I feel like as long as you kind of maintain your moral compass, you shouldn't have any legal issues. So that is my presentation on the legalities of evaluations. Thank you for watching.